think it's morning. I've been working so many hours. I don't know if is it still morning? Good morning. So, obviously there was some headlines and some conversation with the DA's office. I spoke to Manhattan DA's office late last night about an accidental discharge that took place during the operation that we did up at Columbia University, specifically Hamilton Hall. So with me today, who will walk us through that accidental discharge, is Chief Valdez. He is the commanding officer of ESU. I'll let him walk us through, how that came about, and then we'll take, 4 or 5 questions on the incident, stay on topic, and that's it. All right. So this is Chief Valdez, commanding officer of ESU.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. I am Assistant Chief Carlos Valdez, commanding officer of the Emergency Service Unit. On Tuesday, April 30th, ESU was tasked with breaching, clearing, and securing Hamilton Hall at Columbia University, which at the time was occupied by protesters who had overtaken the building and barricaded themselves inside. This was a large-scale, complex, and dynamic operation designed to both overcome the people inside with minimal physical force, while at the same time containing them to where they were located, eliminating their access to other parts of the building so that arrest teams could move in, place them into custody, and remove them from the building. Our assignment on that evening was to clear their entire building of anyone who was not supposed to be there. This included many offices used by the faculty and administration, some of which were locked and required us to force entry. The situation was fluid and at certain times under low light conditions. During the course of this operation, while clearing an unoccupied vacant area of the building on the first floor, one ESU member, a sergeant, did unintentionally discharge one round from his firearm. The sergeant was attempting to assist other officers in gaining entry to a locked office to make sure there was no one hiding inside. The front of the office consisted of a metal frame door and a large glass, non-transparent window. Gaining access to the office through the window ensured the least amount of damage to the structure as opposed to cutting open the metal door jamb. Once the window was broken, the sergeant attempted to reach through the hole in the glass to unlock the door from the inside. To do this, he transitioned his firearm from his dominant right hand to his non-dominant left hand. When the sergeant transitioned his firearm to his non-dominant hand, he began to use his dominant hand to gain entry through the window, which is when the unintentional discharge occurred. The bullet traveled through the office glass and into the office they were attempted to gain access to. After the firearm discharged, the sergeant immediately assessed his team and ensured that nobody was injured. The team gained access to the office and found that there was nobody inside. In this case, the bullet landed on the floor of the office and didn't travel anywhere else, so it was apparent that it had struck no one. The officer continued with his assignment, as we are trained to do, and notified his supervisor at the first opportunity. At no time were any police officers, members of the public, or any protesters in danger. This was purely unintentional. With that, I would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Mr. Schmidt, box 5.
Hi, Chief, thanks so much. First of all, mine is multi-pronged. My question to you. First of all, why would they have the flashlight on the gun? I mean, I understand why they have that piece of equipment, but in this particular situation, why not have just a separate flashlight if they needed a flashlight to go through? That's the first part of it. And then, when are you guys going to be releasing the body cam footage? I know DA has it. And the third part of the question, why wasn't this addressed at the presser on Wednesday? Because everybody obviously knew.
I'll take the last two.
Okay, the commissioner will take the last two. Now, as far as your first question, so we use a lighted firearm, side firearm. It provides illumination to make better decisions under difficult circumstances. So that's why we use our sidearms with illuminating flashlights. If that answers your question.
Why not just use a separate flashlight? And
Well, listen,
why not have just a separate flashlight considering that you are going into the car?
So every job is different. It is very fluid. This was a very fast-moving paced job that was ongoing. The officer decided to make entry and use his, while he was clearing the room. We have to prepare for anything that may be in that room that could possibly be of harm to the officers or to civilians. With that, we train our officers to unholster their weapons and clear the room at the same time. We are equipped with those lighted guns, so it frees up our hands in case something else may come up to us. If that answers your question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, Linda, the other thing I think that you asked is the second part was what again? Give me the number 2 question.
The second part was, when is the body cam footage going to be?
Yeah. So right now,
The DA has
so yeah, the DA has it, and we don't have any intention on releasing body cam on accidental discharge. We never do that, and I don't think we're going to do that here just because it's a newsworthy incident. That we're not going to change that protocol. We're not going to release body cam on accidental discharge.
Thank you. And then the other part of the question, why didn't you folks address it on Wednesday at the presser? Because obviously everybody knew about it at that point. Why not just talk about it then instead of now?
Yeah, I think we could have talked about it, but I don't recall it coming up organically in that press conference. We normally don't do any kind of release on an accidental discharge. I do see how some are saying, hey, this is a operation that people were watching around the country, but our protocol normally on an accidental discharge, and especially when I talked to the police commissioner about it, I asked, hey, anything abnormal about this accidental discharge other than this is a newsworthy operation? Was there anybody in the vicinity of this accidental discharge? Did anybody even hear it? Even the other ESU members didn't hear it. There was nobody in danger. There was nobody struck. And for us, this is a accidental discharge. We average about 8 of these a year. And so my goal here was not to just try and make a story. My goal was to see, is there a story here in terms of, hey, is there something abnormal about this? And it wasn't. But we would have talked about it. We gave it to the DA, and yeah, I knew it would come up eventually because it always does. So it was no rush for us to talk about this. And you have to remember, the same night, the next day, while everybody else is thinking about just, hey, we could have addressed that at a press conference, the reality was that I was dealing with CUNY that night, because when we left Columbia, we went right up to CUNY to clear out another couple hundred people up there. So, no, I didn't make the decision that we wanted to address the accidental discharge at that time, because we normally don't address them, period.
Mary Lynn?
So I just have a question about, is this the standard protocol where all the responding officers went in with these firearms with the light attached to it? Was it because the conditions were very dark in the building, or is this just the standard practice?
No, that is, emergency service unit officers are equipped, all their sidearms are equipped with a lighted firearm. So that is standard practice for us.
It's pretty
So-
standard around the country.
Many police agencies use that, especially tactical entry teams.
Jason? Good morning, Jamie Nichols, Freelance News. I wanted to focus your attention, you said that, you described the situation as fluid. Other officers have described, you need to be prepared for whatever may happen inside. But some people are saying that you guys risk kids' lives to make a TikTok video, that there was no real legitimate law enforcement need to go in there with the SWAT team as the ESU commander. What's your position on that? What's your answer to that?
Well, we had individuals that were barricaded at a location. That is what ESU officers do. They gain entrance to barricaded situations, not just for perpetrators or armed perpetrators, but for people who need assistance, to handle aids, and to handle emotionally disturbed people. So we were tasked to breach a building that was barricaded, and then to secure the protesters that were in there.
And the other thing we always say at these press conferences, this is New York City. We have, and the mayor loves to say, we have 8.5 million people, 8.5 million opinions, all right? But if you ask tactical, experienced people around the globe about making these type of entries anywhere where you don't know what's on the opposite side of those doors, where people have been barricaded for several hours, if not more than 24 hours, and not know what to expect, I don't think any of those experts will tell you that it's a good idea to go in there without your proper equipment and be ready for anything that you may encounter.
But did you guys have any intel that they were on?
That's why you go prepared for anything.
So you didn't have any. All right, we're gonna move on.
But no, hold on 1 second. I think we told you the intel. The intel is that there are barricaded individuals who've been there for a long time, who've dismantled security cameras, and you don't have eyes and ears in there. So yeah, that is intelligence. Go.
James Ford.
Thank you. I mean, this is ESU, and these are your best guys. We all know that.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit more about the training that goes into an incident like this, and why it was that in this case it might not have been followed, or why was the, and you said officer and sergeant, was it a sergeant?
Sergeant.
But why was the sergeant's finger on the trigger? And just talk about what happens going forward. Is there some sort of disciplinary action?
Sure. So, ESU training, or Specialized Tactics School, is a 9-month training course, which is probably the longest, one of the longest in the country, definitely the longest in this department. 10 weeks of that training is dedicated to heavy weapons and tactics training. When incidents like this happen, and it's called an accident for a reason, right? It's called an accidental discharge. The sergeant at the time was trying to clear an area, an unknown location that was dark. So he made the decision to transition his firearm from his dominant hand to his non-dominant hand so he could better try to gain access to the office. With that, he unintentionally pulled the trigger of his weapon and discharged the firearm. Moving forward, we will obviously counsel the officer and send him to retraining and reevaluate him, and we'll take it from there. He's a very experienced officer in the unit. He's been a sergeant in the unit now for almost 8 years with an impeccable record.
But do we know how I mean, just in the training that we covered for you all, usually the number one thing is to never let your finger
Yes.
get to the trigger.
Right.
Do we
Well,
know how that could
Well,
happen?
well, sir, under the conditions, I mean, it's a high-level stress situation. When he transitioned to his left hand, he accidentally pulled the trigger. That's the best I can't tell you I could get into the sergeant's mind, so.
All right, this will be our
one
last
more.
question.
Hey,
Kelly,
just
New
wait,
York
wait,
one.
wait, sorry.
Carlos, hold on a second. Carlos, who are you calling on for your question?
Kelly, New York one will call.
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, you said it wasn't your decision about releasing the information about the accidental discharge.
Mhm.
Who made that decision? And I'm just wondering, if it happens regularly, why not then talk about it at the previous press conference? And then I just have a clarification question. Is it every officer that's going to clear these encampments once you guys are asked to going in with that type of weapon, with the flashlight firearm? Is this something that you guys are reviewing to not use them when you're clearing these other encampments?
I'll work backwards. I think the chief said that this is standard for his ESU teams and his special operations people. It is not standard for our patrol people. So, no, many of the patrol people you saw going in who weren't making the breach of the building, their firearms are not equipped with this flashlight. And then your other question was,
On the decision, whose decision was it to not bring this topic up?
well, it's a joint decision, and it's one in which it's been like that for many years here. I don't recall many requests other than the newsworthiness of it is not the only thing that the police department has to think about. All right, this is an accidental discharge. This is the first time I'm being asked about an accidental discharge, probably in years. I was in DCPI for 4 years prior to this as a lieutenant. I don't recall anybody here asking me about an accidental discharge. So just because it happens at a place where we're doing an operation where now it's at a place where we consider newsworthy, now we care. But accidental discharges happen every single year, and we average about 8 a year, and we don't get requests on them. So that policy has been pretty standard, and if you do ask about it, we'll talk about it, like we're doing right now.
Did you just say the type of gun
Yeah,
it
we
was?
good? Oh,
We're done.
okay,
Thank
sounds
you,
good.
everyone.
All right, thank you.
Gun it is?
Safety on the gun?
You can follow up, just any questions, if you want to follow up, send any questions
Was
to
the
DCPI.
mayor, was the mayor